Okay, are y'all ready? Well, all the notes. Okay. So here's kind of the plan for the week. Most of y'all are juniors. What are you doing on Thursday? The STAR test, which is, we all grab your reviews. Okay, so listen up. On Thursday, I'm also STAR testing because I'm giving the STAR test. So you do not have an assignment. Seniors, y'all go to, I think, C251, but I'll tell you for sure after. But juniors, y'all will be testing. You don't have a makeup assignment. We're reviewing today. We were gonna test next class, but since y'all are already taking a STAR test, we're not gonna do it that day. Okay? So I want to run through barely any of these, to be honest. Just to kind of make sure you know how to do a few examples. And then within your table, ask me if you need help. But I don't want to do like a long notes. Y'all are in here for like, okay? So you do need your this thing, your unit circle. Okay, does anybody need a copy of the unit circle? Anybody need it? Nobody? So you have your unit circle? Okay.
You were like swerving in between traffic all the time. Yesterday, like it's the same time.
Sophia, were you driving? I'm safe.
She was cut. Huh? Yes. Correct. I was like, wow.
Is y'all doing more on this? And I can let you borrow mine, but if you watch the notes, you'll add in the last little bit. Okay, are we ready? Let's make this like 15 minutes and then you have the rest of class. Okay, off the first page, we're gonna do number 11. We're gonna do let's do 18. And then we'll do maybe 23 and 24. All right, here we go. Number 11 is a cosine. On your unit circle, find 210 degrees. What quadrant does that appear in? Remember, it goes like this. 1, 2, 3, 4. Where's 210? 3. And then do I want the X or the Y for that ordered pair at 210? Cosine is an X value, so my number would be negative √3/2. Okay, if you were asked for a sign, what would you be choosing? Not the X, but the Y. Very good. Go down to number 18. I want CSC at the bottom of your circle. You should have CSC is sine flipped and secant is cosine flipped. So if I'm doing CSC, I'm going to find the Y value and then I'm going to flip it at 5 pi 6. Find 5 pi 6 on your circle. What quadrant is it in? Quadrant 2, 5 pi 6 is here. My Y value is a half. What would that be if I flip it? Very good. So I'm going to put sine flipped equals 2/1. Because the original value was a half, so when I flip it, I get 2/1. What does that equal to? 2. Regular 2. Very good. Now, I should have maybe picked a different example, but if you flip it and a square root ends up on the bottom, do you remember how to fix it? Okay, good. So maybe let's do one of those if we can find one. Let's do number 19. Okay, number 19, I want secant 5 pi 4ths. What am I going to find and flip for secant? Okay, that's going to be cosine or the X value flipped. Find 5 pi 4ths on your circle, please. What quadrant is it in? Quadrant 3 is correct. And at 5 pi 4ths, which is right here, I want the X value, which is negative √2/2. But what am I going to write for my flipped value? 2 over root 2. Because remember, you have to flip it if it's one of the reciprocal IDs, secant and cosine. Okay, from there, how do I fix the root 2 on bottom? Another one here, another one here. Which means that on top, I have -2 root 2. What happens when you repeat a root on the bottom? You just keep the number. So if it's root 2 and root 2, now that's a regular 2. Is that my final answer? Almost. What can I still do? Yeah, if you got a 2 on top and on bottom and they're both outside, you can cancel things. All right, last 2 off the front. We have a tan and a cotan. Which way do I divide for tangent? Okay, y over x. Very good. Which is the same as sine over cosine. So I want 3 pi halves. Where could I find 3 pi halves on the circle? Okay, the bottom is correct. And at 3 pi halves, what is the y value? -1 over the x value is 0. Can I divide -1 by 0? No, you can't get a 0 on the bottom, so it's undefined. Last one like that, number 24 is a cotan. How do I divide for cotan? Instead of y over x, it should be what? X over y. So find 11 pi 6 for me, please. 11 pi 6 for me, please. What is my x value? Root 3 over 2. Divide by, what's my y value? -0.5, very good. And then remember, when you're dividing fractions, you're gonna keep change flip. So remember that I keep the top one the same. So it would be root 3 over 2. What do I change? The division sign turns to a multiplication sign. And then flip is for that bottom fraction. Instead of a half, now it's 2 over 1. Okay, also remember that we talked about when you're flipping, just keep the negative in the front. You don't have to move it to be like on the bottom, just fill it. Okay, from there, what can we cancel? 2 top and bottom cross out. What remains from my multiplication? What do I still have on top? Root 3, what do I have on bottom? 1, what do I have in front? Negative. And then is the divide by 1 necessary in the final answer? So it's really just negative root. Can we do that? Good. All right, go ahead and turn the page. We'll do maybe 2 of these. What'd you say? Yes. Let's do number 29. What do you think we should do first? Okay, add the 3. So I'm gonna add the 3 across. That gives me 4 cosine squared theta equals 0 plus 3 is now a 3. Next step, what do I do? Divide the 4. Remember, you can't get rid of the squared if there's a number in front. You have to get rid of that number first. So I have cosine squared theta equals 3 over 4. Okay, next step, how do I get rid of the squared? Take that square root, and when you square root a fraction, do you remember you do the top and the bottom individually? So I'm gonna square root here, and then I'm gonna square root here. Okay, the reason you want to square root the 3 and the 4 separately is that one of them is a perfect square root. Which number can I square root evenly, the 3 or the 4?
4.
What is the square root of 4 on the bottom? 2. So I have cosine theta equals square root 3 has to stay, but the square root of 4 is 2. From there, we're missing something really important. What happens when you square root both sides? You have to add a plus minus in the front. So when I look on my circle, I want cosine to equal plus or minus root 3/2, which means when I look on my circle, am I looking for that number as an X or a Y? What type of number is cosine? An X value. So you're gonna find all of the angles where the X value is equal to positive root 3/2 or negative root 3/2. Okay, on the circle. So look on your circle for me, please, and find all of the places where your X value is equal to that. We're gonna do this entire problem set in radians. That's a good question. So can somebody tell me what those answers are? Let's start with quadrant 1. Pi over 6. Okay, what else? Quadrant 2, what would I get? Okay, 5 pi over 6. Hopefully you wrote smaller than me. Next one. 7 pi over 6, and then the last one. 11 pi over 6. Okay, those answers go with number 20. Okay. All right, last one we're gonna do, let's do number 32 right below it. What do you think you should do first? Add the root 2 across is correct. 0 plus root 2 is gonna be secant theta equal to root 2. From here, secant is not one of your original sine or cosine functions, but it can be flipped back into one of the originals. What does secant flip back into? Cosine, but if you want to flip this side, remember you have to flip both sides. So secant will return back to cosine. And root 2 is gonna need something on the bottom for me to flip it with. So what can I put on bottom here? And so now when I flip it, it's gonna be 1 over root 2. Question, will I be able to find that anywhere on my circle? Not with a square root on the bottom, but remember, we can fix it. So I'm gonna put another root 2 here and here. Which means that really I want cosine theta to equal root 2 over 2. Root 2 over 2. And on my circle, if it's a cosine question, am I looking for it as an X or a Y? Cosine theta would be an X. So there should be 2 spots on your circle for this one. Where's the first place that cosine theta is root 2 over 2? Pi over 4. Okay, question, do I also want 3 pi over 4? No, because at 3 pi over 4, what's my X value? Negative, and this isn't a plus or minus. This one I want root 2 over 2, then I have to skip because we didn't take a square root. So then I want to skip down here. My next one is going to happen over here at 7 pi. Questions on that? Okay, go ahead and turn the page. For the tans and cotans, I really just want you to watch the notes so that I don't have to explain. It'll kind of take a little bit longer on those, but make sure watch the notes on those. You have an extra long class today. All right, last little bit of this. Let's do number 25. Okay, the phase shift. This is all stuff that you learned when I wasn't here. The phase shift is the left or right number. Okay, it does have like a special name for trig, but it's the left or right shift. So looking at your equation, which number controls going left or right in the equation? It's gonna be the plus 17. And remember that if they say plus 17, which way do we really shift? To the left 17. shift left 17 degrees. Okay, which number controls shifting up or down? The 4, and if it's a -4, which way are we gonna shift? Okay, down 4. Okay, next number I'm looking for is the vertical stretch or compression. Usually that's gonna be the number right in front of the sine or the cosine. Do I have a number in that position? What number? 5, and is 5 bigger than 1 or smaller than 1? So it's called a stretch. And remember that a vertical stretch controls how tall the wave is. That's called the amplitude, so you would say it's 5. So if I asked you to graph this, which I promise I won't, because you should have already learned it and it's not that big of a deal if you don't remember it. This is how tall your wave should go on the graph. Okay, last question, horizontal stretch or compression, what number is in that spot? The 1/2. If it's a 1/2, do I really cut the 360 in half to find the new period? Okay, no, remember that the new period is gonna have the reverse effect of the half. So if they put a divide by 2, I'm gonna do 360 multiply by 2. Which means how long will the new period be for this graph? Close? 720. And will that be a stretch or a compression if your period went from 360 to 720? That's a stretch. Okay, out of those things, this is the one that I care the most about. And the reason for that is that the last thing that we learned last class was complete solutions. So turn the page. And let's do one of these, let's do number 29. Or no, wait, let me pick a different one. Let's do 30. Okay, 30, what do you think you should do first? Minus the 1 is correct.
Yeah, well.
I did, that is true. So 0 minus 1, now that's a -1. Okay, what should my next step be? Divide the root 2 across, very good. So I have sine 5 theta plus 100 equals -1 over root 2. And then for sine, am I looking for an X or a Y on the circle? A Y. So I'm gonna look on my circle for a Y value to equal this number. Will I find it? Not in that form, I have to do what? Okay, fix the root, so put another root 2 over 2. Which means that really, I'm looking for what on my circle, what number? Root 2 over 2, is that right? No, it's negative, very good. So look on your circle, for the Y value to be negative, should you be looking at the top half of the circle for a negative Y value or the bottom half? Bottom, so tell me the 2 places that your Y value is a negative root 2 over 2, we're gonna be in degrees for this page. 225 and what? 315. Okay, remember that crosses out the sign, but all of this middle stuff needs to be set equal to those 2 numbers. So I have a 5 theta plus 100 equal to 225. And a 5 theta plus 100 equals 215. And then remember that you're gonna solve both of those branches for your solution. Should I distribute the 5? No, you can, but it's gonna make it take longer for you to solve it. So let's divide it out of the way. Divide by 5, divide by 5. Theta plus 100 equals, someone with a calculator, what is 225 divided by 5? How much? 45? Okay, then from there, what do I do with the plus 100? And 45 take away 100 means my first theta is what? Negative 55 degrees. Okay, go ahead and solve the other one for me. Remember, your steps should be identical because you're solving the same equation twice, just with a different right side value. What is 315 divided by 5? 63. Minus that 100 across. What is 63 minus 100? Negative 37. Now, for your normal sine and cosine graphs, how long is the period? It's normally 360, but if there's a period change, you have to adjust the period. So what number in this original equation is gonna change the period? The 5, and if they put a times 5, what do you do to find the new period? Divide.
I'm so confused.
I know, you've not been here, it's okay. So the new period is gonna be 360 divided by 5. And what is 360 divided by 5? 72. So your final answer would be the following. Theta equals negative 55 plus 72n, comma, and then negative 37 plus 72.
Wait, where did you get 72 from?
You need to watch the videos. But you have so much time that you can do it.
Yes.
Huh? Great question. Okay, one more thing. I'm about to let you just have the rest of the period. So here's the deal. If you star test on Thursday, I don't want to test you on Monday when it's been a whole week. So we will test over this at some point, but it's not going to be on Monday because that's like a really long time to not be in a math class. So I don't know when we'll test, but it won't be Thursday because you're star testing, and it won't be Monday.
Oh my God.
Yes. I'm not gonna make you do the graphing. You can do
I have it on my phone. Oh, really?
as much as you need to know about graphing is what we did last class. Remember when we just kind of sketched them? That's good enough. That if you can kind of follow that.